Hi everyone, it's Nicole here today with a 3D Me and My Dragon pop-up card featuring Mama Elephant stamps and dies to create a pop-up box card. I am in love with these interactive pop-up box cards. They're so super fun. When laid flat, they fit in a standard A2 size envelope, and when the recipient takes them out, they can pop them up for this adorable little display. I've been wanting to make one with the Me and My Dragon stamp set, so we're going to start with some dark Storm Cloud Lawn Fawn cardstock. We're going to put the two panels that you die cut using the box shape together in a long flat line, and then I like to do any embellishing of the box with ink or stamping, whatever that might be, while the box is still flat. You want to leave one of the long sides straight, because that is the back of the box and it gives it much more stability if you do not bend that. So I always leave one straight. And then I am going to ink with some white pigment ink, this My Favorite Things mini cloud stencil, to create the illusion of a dark night sky, and the white on the dark gray kind of helps give that illusion. Now the inking might look kind of messy, and really it was, until I kind of got a little bit more inked and some of the ink dried. But as you add more and more layers, add a little bit more blending, it really gives this amazing illusion. So this that I'm inking now is the bottom edge of the three sides of the card that you're going to see. The back of the card I went ahead and left plain. This is also a fantastic place on the back where you could write a message to the recipient if you wanted to, or add a little panel that you write something to the recipient or sign your name, whatever you want to do there. So I've done the three sides on the bottom of the card, and now I am inking up the three panels that pop down when the card opens. The last panel that we're going to add some inking to is going to be the back of the box card, which I'll get to as soon as these panels are done, to really give it a very it just helps build the scene, I guess is what I want to say. I'm a huge scene card fan, and I look at these pop-up box cards very much as I do creating a scene card. So this is that back of the box, again, doing all of my inking before I actually assemble the box. Now I went ahead and die cut 4 panels from the Mama Elephant 3D pop-up card die collection, and I'm going to use that rounded stitched edge and not the grassy edge, because I wanted this more to appear to be up in the clouds. I went ahead and die cut 2 of these from white cardstock and 2 from vellum, and I'm going to alternate them inside of the box. I am only attaching one side, and that's because if you've seen any of my previous videos on creating this box card, you've probably seen me do this already, but if not, this makes it so much easier to get them lined up perfectly. So I only attach one side. I double check everything to make sure that I am done adding what I want to add before I assemble the card. In this case, I want to take the Kingdom Trio dies, and I have die cut a mountain border from black cardstock that I'm going to go ahead and add some more of this white ink to. I wanted it to be kind of a dreamy fantasy type of scene, I guess I want to say. And we're going to attach this mountain border to the back of the card only, meaning I'm going to need to trim this down to fit the back of my card. Much easier to do before you actually assemble the layers or the little inserts inside the pop-up box. So this is another example of embellishing before you put that box together. So now I'm simply trimming off any excess. In addition to my mountain border using that Kingdom Trio die collection, I'm going to die cut another border using like the little cityscape. And I'm going to die cut that from the same Storm Cloud cardstock that I used for the box card itself. And that I'm not going to add any ink to, and that is really going to just make it stand out a little bit better. Now I am going to go ahead and fold all of my tabs over. This is still going to keep the box fairly flat. I've removed the backing paper from the score tape. I've lined them up, flipping that edge over, and that's going to perfectly line up all of the little inserts. I haven't added the adhesive to that last tab yet, so my box is still it's still open, but I wanted to show you how I lined those up. It's so easy. Once you've done it this way, you wonder how you could do it another way because it just works so great. You can also add as many or as few inserts as you want to, depending on how full you want the scene. I generally don't go any more than 4 just because I think it starts getting really crowded and you can't quite see everything. But you could definitely do as many as you need to. This is that cityscape background or border that I was talking about that I'm adhering to the back. This will be the final piece that I add to the box card before I take the score tape adhesive off the backing, or the backing off of that score tape adhesive, and put my box together. So here's kind of what my little scene looks like without any embellishment. Let's go ahead and remove that backing paper, fold that over, and there is the pop-up box card. Now it's still super easy to lay this flat, and I'm going to lay this flat and stamp a sentiment from the Dragon Wishes stamp set in the lower right corner of that front flap of the card. Starting with a little powder tool to help deactivate a little bit and make sure that my sentiment sticks only to the embossing powder I'm applying here. I wanted white embossing powder so that it really shows up against this dark background. And I did let my cards sit for a little bit because I used pigment ink. Pigment ink stays wet a little bit longer. And I let this sit probably for a good hour. I had something else I needed to go do, and I came back to this and went ahead and stamped and embossed. You could also hit this with a heat tool, any inking you do, to speed up that drying process. Now before I heat this, I want to make sure that the embossing powder is covering everything, and then I want to heat up my sentiment, and there is the box card kind of ready for embellishment. Ready to add dragons, ready to add any little accessories here and there on the card. I did take a little stamp, or pardon me, star stamp image from the Me and My Dragons stamp set, and I am going to stamp these little star clusters with white pigment ink, that same ink that I used to stencil on my clouds, just in a couple places throughout the background. Now, to create the insert pieces for my card, the finishing fun little touches, this is going to be all the dragons. I started with the small dragons, and I knew going in that I was going to need more than the 4 small dragons, because I really like to fill in the sides of the pop-up box card as well, so that from every angle there's something cute and fun to look at. But I started with 4, and I'm also going to use the little castle in the clouds and the mountains in the clouds from the Me and My Dragons stamp set at the same time. So we've got our 4 original dragons plus our mountains in the clouds and castle in the clouds, and we'll color these in with Zig Clean Color Real Brush markers. I'm stamping everything on some scraps of Bristol Smooth cardstock. I keep every little bit of Bristol Smooth cardstock I have. These little scraps are perfect when I have little images to stamp and color, and that way I can use up all of my cardstock. The only cardstock I use with Zig markers is Bristol Smooth cardstock. They blend beautifully. Now you'll probably see me use a little bit of water here in a little bit coloring the larger dragon. I really ended up not needing it. Once it was completely dry, I blended it out. I did not want the watercolor look here. If you just want a flat color with these and are not watercoloring, I like to lay down my dark color, blend out with my lighter color, and make sure you keep cleaning the tip of that marker off on a scrap piece of paper, or for like this, a little corner of your cardstock, to get rid of any of that dark ink so you still get some beautiful blending. I am using several of my favorite color combinations for these dragons here today. All of the marker colors I'm using are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube and also on my blog. So if at any time you're wondering exactly which colors I'm using, that is where you can find that information. I also want to tell you that coming really soon, the 5th of August, I am going to be sharing a color chart that features my favorite Zig Clean Color Real Brush Marker color combinations. This is something that I have received multiple requests for. I actually did one for a friend when we were at a craft retreat. It was kind of a not a very high-tech color combination chart, but she had asked me, and so I did one for her, and I have been wanting to do this forever. So coming soon, and just here in a few days, I will have a color chart for you, and I plan on doing it for Copic markers, and other color mediums. If you guys are interested, just kind of drop me a note and let me know. But I will be sharing all of my favorite color combinations with you because I did not purchase any of my Zigs as a set. Instead, I purchased them individually because I like to pick and choose which colors I'm going to buy. I did the same thing with Copic markers because I know that I am not going to use all of those colors. So instead of getting a bunch of colors that I'm not going to use, I like to pick and choose, and hopefully this will help you guys if you like some of the color combinations you see and you're wanting to pick up some of these products, some of these markers. Maybe it will help you in deciding what you like. So I have colored all of these in. I die cut them with the coordinating dragon wishes and me and my dragon dies. I love these little guys. How cute are they? I have to say, I originally didn't know if I would have room to fill in with a big dragon. And as I got all of these little guys put into my pop-up box scene card, I realized I did, and I can't wait to show you how that's all going to turn out. Something I get a lot of questions on with this pop-up box card are what are these little clear pieces that I'm using. They are scraps of transparency. They are a heavier weight transparency. If you have some transparency products or maybe even packing material from stamp sets or whatever, I hold on to that stuff and throw it kind of in a scrap bin. I cut them into thin strips and I use them as little picks, little clear picks for these cards. If you are creating a dimensional card and you want, in this case, dragons to appear they're flying up high and you want a way to attach them, or the castle up in the clouds, these little clear transparency strips are perfect for that because when you look at it, from a distance, you really just see these things floating up above all of these borders of the card. Obviously, when you look close, you're going to see the transparency, but it is see-through. So anything back behind is still going to be visible. It's the best way I can think of to add lots of dimension to give that illusion of flying, of movement to a card. So packaging from, I'm trying to think, especially, here's a good example, large like 6x6 background stamps usually come on a clear acetate sheet. If you store them differently and don't need that acetate sheet, you can use that for this. Just regular transparencies. A lot of mine are left over from creating shaker cards, and I had to trim off a little bit here and there, and I just keep all of those scraps because they make perfect little clear picks to create this awesome dimension in pop-up box cards. Now, once I get my original 6 images put in place, these are kind of all of the originals for the center part of the card, I, from there, decided how many additional dragons do I need, how many additional images do I need to finish off my card. In this case, I picked 3 little clouds. The 2 small clouds are from Dragon Wishes, and the bigger one, I say bigger, but they're all really kind of teeny tiny. They're really cute, is from Me and My Dragon. The large dragon, obviously, and the flame from Me and My Dragon. And the 2 small ones are just, I picked 2 of the images, repeated those, and I'm going to color them in with different color combinations for my card. So here is my big dragon, and this is where I thought I was going to go ahead and use maybe a little bit of water. And I did use some water from a water brush pen, and I ended up really, really not liking it. So once it was completely dry, and that's really important, it has to be dry, otherwise you're just kind of smearing the color around. You're not going to get a good blend. You can go over it and, you know, go in and maybe go with a different color. In this case, like the inside of the wings, I kind of tried to do a contrasting color for even the small ones. And I was doing this light blue with a blue dragon, and I did not like it. I really wanted a little bit more green. I wanted that green to really pop. So I went in and colored with green over the top of that, and it looks awesome. I also didn't like the blotchiness of the dragon itself where the water settled and it really gave a watercolor look. Since I didn't really do that anywhere else on the card, I went in with my light color and blended some more. Went in with my dark marker, added in some more detail where I thought I needed it, and I like that so much better. Now the two small guys, I just picked some color combinations and colored those in, die cut everything, and let's go ahead and attach the rest of the images. Now the one thing that's different about this pop-up box from most of mine is that you can fold the box, the two flaps in the front up, and it will be shut. Because I put this big guy on the front of my card, I really recommend not folding those two tabs up. You probably could if you wanted to, but the chance of bending his wings is a little bit greater. And really, it's going to fit in an envelope just like this. I would probably put a piece of cardstock on top of it to hold it secure, and so there's no damage when it goes through the mail. But just tuck it in just like you see here, and it will work perfectly. I am just adding those final few dragons and things to the front of the card and to the sides as well. So I picked the two dragons that look like they're flying because we're putting them on the two sides that have clouds. So I thought that that would look best for what I'm creating here. But you could definitely pick whichever ones you want to. I'm adding the little clouds kind of here and there, scattered throughout. It rounds out the design nicely. You can add, again, as much or as little as you want to your pop-up box card. I tend to go over the top. I also took a black glaze pen and went over the eyes on all of my little critters. So here's where I'm showing you it's really hard to fold it up, so I'm going to keep it flat like this. And then when the recipient pulls it out, they can just simply pop it up. Very, very cute. I hope this has inspired you to try some other ideas when creating 3D pop-up box cards. Thank you guys so much for joining me today for this Mama Elephant pop-up box card featuring Mama Elephant stamps and dies. The supplies I used to create my card are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Here are a couple more videos featuring Mama Elephant stamps and dies that you might be interested in. Thank you guys so much for joining me today, and we'll see you next time.